Jake Oettinger makes 33 saves in his first shutout of the season as the Dallas Stars come away with a 3-0 win over New York in their home opener. Let's dissect it next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. The Dallas Stars win on opening night at the American Airlines Center by a final score of 3-0 over the New York Islanders. Jake Oettinger dazzles with 30 saves. Jake Oettinger wants to be paid after this season. He is going to be asking Jim Nill to back up the Brinks truck with his first two performances of the season. He's living right. I'll give him that. The Islanders hit, a half dozen posts once again. He was bailed out a couple of times in Nashville as well. But the high quality of chances he faced here tonight and the high quality stops once again from Jake Oettinger as he improves to 2-0 on the season, picks up his 11th shutout in his career. He had 3 last season. And boy, looks like he could have a half dozen, maybe even reach double digits if he keeps up these performances. But another big win for Dallas after a sloppy start once again. It hasn't quite been Dallas Stars hockey right off the hop here. And look, they're still figuring out things. Dallas hasn't exactly been firing on all cylinders, especially with their passing. They're just not very crisp. We've seen that on the power play too, which has been atrocious. That's my big overreaction. Like, it's just bad. It's just really, really bad. And I know we're only 2 games into this thing. They go 0 for 2 here tonight against New York, but really just never threaten. It just never looks like they're even going to come remotely close to scoring a goal. And there's a few reasons for that. They haven't been particularly good in the dots. They were 49% tonight, which was an improvement from their first game in Nashville, but their entries are just stagnant, not moving together as a unit, especially through neutral. And I think a lot of that has to do with their passing. They just aren't clicking right now. And you can see that in their offense as well. The goals they've scored really to begin the season are off long stretch passes, turnovers, mistakes from the opposition that they kind of just pounce on and they make you pay for it, which is good. They're executing, but they haven't really been able to work the puck from their own end, move it through center and get a quality forecheck and sort of create offense that way. But both games have been a bit helter-skelter, and I think they're just sort of moving through the growing pains, if you will. But another huge win. I mean, you pick up another 2 points. Tyler Seguin picks up his first 2 goals of the campaign, and he looks really good. I mean, that line in general of him, Marchment, and Duchesne, no surprise, has just been pretty consistent and what you would expect. Marchment, I mean, what a start to the season he's had. He's just been all over the ice. He's impactful. He drew a penalty here tonight. He's just making things happen, along with Logan Stankoven. You can throw in that conversation. Just making things happen, positive plays that aren't always leading to goals, but he picks up the assist on Sagan's first of the year, and he's just in the slot and just rips it past Varlamov. Jamie Benn, again, off a bad turnover by New York right in front of their own zone, right in front of their own goalie, I should say, and Johnston gets a piece of it, falls to Ben, and man, he went around the world with the posts, and he buries his first of the year, and Dallas once again picks up a big win. They were outshot 33-27. They've been outshot now pretty comfortably in the first 2 games of this season, which has really not been the MO for Pete DeBoer since he's been here. But you can tell they're trying to figure some things out. I think the line combinations are going to take a bit of time here early, especially with the Maverick Bourque injury. Those line combinations did not practice a lot together in the preseason, and that matters. It's going to take some time to gel. I think when Bourque comes back, maybe he goes tomorrow against Seattle. We'll keep an eye on that. And Casey DeSmith is set to get the start tomorrow against the Kraken as well. But I think when Bourque comes back and Johnston possibly moves up to that top line, I think you're going to see the offense click a bit more. I don't think there was a ton of time with these certain line combinations. I will say, though, that fourth line looked very, very good tonight. It was good to see them in a game that wasn't just hampered down by penalties. So it gave them a chance to play a bit more. And I think they were one of the better lines as well. Beck had a nice game, just got better as the game wore along. They had 3 shifts in that third period where they really gave it to New York when the Stars were on their heels for the majority of that third period. They were taking on water, and Oettinger he holds strong and makes save after save, right? And I said it ad nauseum over the summer. I thought he was going to have a big year. We talked about it. The fourth year, a full season after 3 years under your belt in the NHL, these goalies sometimes just pop, man. And not that Oettinger already hasn't burst onto the scene, but I think you're going to have a very, very good year from Jake Oettinger. You look at the Corsi for percentage at 5-on-5. Just really, really uncharacteristic. At third period, 32% for Dallas. They were 50 in the second. And that's when they've started to open things up. And look, we saw it against Nashville. They scored 3 goals. They're just stretching the ice. They're not making a lot of passes tape to tape on the way out of their zone. They're flying guys and they're getting players up the ice and they're hitting stretch passes. And that has really been the majority of their offense. And that's not a bad thing. Look, they can transition and play quickly and they can strike in a matter of moments. In that third period, you saw when Dallas was taking on energy or taking on water, that I believe the halfway mark of that third period, we saw Lindell with the puck in his own zone and makes a 50-foot pass right on the tape of Rope. He slides it across to Robo and he gets a good shot off Varlamov. And it's just, that's how quickly the Stars can strike. And that was my big takeaway after the Nashville game as well, is this offense is going to make you pay if you lapse for one moment. And they did a couple of times tonight, and their goaltender was great. And it's a recipe to pick up points and win games. There's still a lot to improve on. Matt Dumba, his injury looms now. And that's going to be interesting how Dallas handles this, because they had to rock with 5 defensemen. Miro played a ton. If we look at the time on ice numbers, we didn't get a great idea of the distribution in game 1 against Nashville. Miro played over 25. Harley was over 25. Lindell played 24. Labushkin over 20 for 2 straight games. But once again, Lundkvist around 14:55, and he just played about 12 minutes the other night. So, Lundkvist isn't playing a ton, and he's been fine. I don't know if the Stars coaching staff is going to trust him enough to take some big minutes here, because he's going to have to step up. And possibly we see Brendan Smith, and who knows what the injury is to Matt Dumba. For those of you that did not watch, he made a rush in the attacking zone. He put a backhand shot on net, and he just sort of awkwardly took a hit from a defenseman, and his knee kind of got stuck underneath. He was able to get off under his own power. He was listed as doubtful the rest of the game. He played one more shift after he went off to test it, and then we never saw him again. We'll see the extent of the injury. We'll probably know more tomorrow, but it is something to take note of. And look, I don't know if the Stars are going to miss him for the defensive quality he provides, but they're going to miss him because they just need players to just chew up minutes. And it looked a lot like we saw for the last month and then the postseason last season here tonight against New York. And that was by necessity, of course. So they're going to have to somehow figure out a way to play with 6 to 7 defensemen, maybe bring in Petrovic from the AHL, bring him up as well to get him in, just to sort of let Miro and Harley breathe a little bit, because you hate to see that this early on in the season when things were sort of going well, to be frank. It was working, right, or they were at least experimenting with it. So we'll see what comes out of that and the severity of the injury. I'm hoping it was more cautious than anything, because he was able to get off under his under his own power, and he did play another shift. So I think it's a good sign. I'm hoping it's more of a cautious approach than anything, but it's certainly of note, because if they're going to ask Harley and Miro to play a ton, then that's just more mileage on their tires. Fortunately, it's early on in the season, so that doesn't really matter at this point. They're going to be fresh. Okay, let's continue to dive into that a bit, and some of my other takeaways from tonight's 3-0 win for the Dallas Stars on opening night at the American Airlines Center in their home opener. Jake Oettinger with the shutout. We'll discuss more in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you have to go to FanDuel.com to get in on the action. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Tomorrow, the Dallas Cowboys in action against the Detroit Lions. Man, it's a pretty close number on FanDuel. I believe it's around 3.5, 4. It can change, of course. All odds are subject to change. And we'll see if the Dallas Cowboys can continue their winning ways this Sunday. But get in on the action with FanDuel. $200 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, I chose Jason Robertson as my shooting star pick here tonight, and he was without a point in the game. I think we have to give it to Jake Oettinger once again. Shout out to all of you that voted in the YouTube community tab. I'm asking for your shooting star picks. Whatever the percentage is, the biggest percentage for the player of that night is the fan pick for shooting star. And of course, I share my pick with you guys as well. And we both went with Robo tonight, but I think Jake Oettinger for sure. I mean, Seguin gets 2 points. I mean, Marchment with 2 helpers again. I mean, what a start to his campaign. He's got 4 points already. Johnston picks up another point. And Johnston's been interesting because I feel like he's fighting the puck a bit. It's just not settling for him. And this could be one of those seasons where, at least early on, you don't see the flash of Wyatt Johnston like we're used to, but he's just productive, right? Maybe he's going to start becoming that guy that just quietly produces, and he's got 2 helpers, and it's not like we've seen a ton, but he's been excellent in all 3 zones. And speaking of that, I mean, Miro Heiskanen was brilliant. I mean, that is just Norris Trophy level defending. And his offensive game has certainly been rusty and has been subpar for his standard. But I mean, in his own zone, just incredible stuff from Miro, which is no surprise. Of course, we're used to it. The expected goals against was 3.42, by the way, tonight against Jake Oettinger. He was graded out as the best star. Seguin 1.87 game score. Harley was up there. He was great too, making things happen. He blocked 3 shots on the night. Again, Dallas is just they're sloppy, but they're finding ways to pick up points, and I think that's just going to be the theme here early on this season. They're going to find a way to win games, even if it's not perfect. Yeah, man, I'm curious with Dumba possibly being out for, maybe a week or two, how the Stars are are going to handle this. Look, I haven't necessarily loved what we've seen from the right side with Lyubushkin and Dumba yet, but it just feels like it was massive for them to have some players, just some guys that could just chew up minutes. And again, I don't mean this as a shot to Dumba, but I don't know if they're going to miss him for what he brings necessarily positive, as much as they're just going to miss him because he could play at least 20 minutes and just and give you some solid minutes on the back end. So I'm curious to see how they're going to deal with this dilemma. Obviously, I mean, they're probably going to put Heiskanen and Harley back together, or they just kind of keep this rotation where, Miro just kind of moves around. We saw him play with Lindell a lot, 6-on-5 late. Lindell and Harley were out there. Lyubushkin is playing with Lindell some, and then Lundkvist can kind of just mix in wherever, right? But they're going to have to find a way to defend at a high enough level in order to keep this up, because they haven't necessarily defended great. They've had way too many turnovers as well. A lot of giveaways. They had 15 tonight. And I mean, New York had trouble with the puck as well. I mean, they gave the puck away a ton, and that's just sort of been the first two games of this season. So I don't know if I can take much stock out of it. I'm just sort of relaying what I'm seeing, right? But for the most part, I mean, I thought Dallas was in control, even in that third period when it felt like New York was coming in waves. Like Dallas just, they're keeping it to the outside, and yeah, the Islanders had their chances. I mean, Bo Horvat was all over the place. I thought they kept Barzal and they held Barzal and Duclair in check. And they just did enough offensively, right? I mean, they just did enough. And that's kind of been the story here over the first two games. They've just done enough, but it hasn't been pretty. And when they start playing some stiffer competition, or at least some teams that sort of have it together, but I mean, you could say that for every team off the hop. It's just teams are sort of finding themselves, and that's what it's going to be like in the first 10 to 20 games of the year. So it's not going to be pretty. But Dallas, I mean, they've done enough, and if Jake Oettinger is going to play this way, they're going to be fine, right? There is a report here from Sam Nessler, great friend of the pod. Matt Dumba will get some imaging done and reevaluated Monday. DeBoer said he is day-to-day until he knows more. So it looks like Brendan Smith will jump in tomorrow against Seattle. And he's a left-handed defenseman who was a seventh defenseman for the majority of the season in New Jersey. Didn't like a ton from his game in the preseason, but, he's a big physical body that they can at least throw in the mix, and that's okay, right? They need him to be a Joel Hanley type, and with Dumba and his injury looming, that's what it's going to be. You hate to see it, though. I mean, you hate to see Matt Dumba go down, because it allowed Miro to play on his strong side, and they seem to have a good pairing together. He actually made his first two shifts were very good. He showed some offensive prowess, and so, all right, like he's starting to, find his game a bit, and you just hate for his season to be not cut short right now. It doesn't look like it's that major, but to be kind of put on pause right now after a nice first two games with Miro. So look, it's adversity. Players are going to get hurt, and the Stars are going to have to deal with it. And they did last season to some key guys like Oettinger, and Miro went down for a month. So they're have to find a way. But it's a big win, especially on day one of a back-to-back. The back-to-backs aren't as aren't as treacherous early on in the season, but you have a Seattle team that let's see how they finished tonight. They won 5-4 in a shootout. So they come from behind, and they took Minnesota to shootout, and they win 5-4. So Seattle comes in off a shootout win in Minnesota, here tonight, so they'll fly in, and we'll see the Kraken. So a big win for Seattle, who has picked up their first win of the year. So yeah, again, just to sort of close the book on tonight here on Locked On Stars, a little bonus episode for you here on a weekend. Team I cover is off, so I can do a little bonus content for you on the weekend, and I'll try to do this as much as possible if I am able to watch games freely on a weekend, because it's good to get my thoughts out right away. So please hit that subscribe button, hit the like, comment as well. Comment what you liked out of the game. Comment what you're maybe concerned about. To hammer the point home on the power play a bit too, because that has been the real disappointing, I guess, department of the game more than anything, just because there's just way too much talent they have in order to look this almost inept. They're, and it's so early. Look, it's such a small sample size. I get it, but this is my overreaction tonight. They're 1 for 6. They haven't really threatened a whole lot. And as I alluded to earlier, just the passing is not crisp, just throwing their problem along, not entering as a unit. They're really stagnant across the line. And some of that has to do with the excellent penalty killing of the Islanders in Nashville, but there's way too many weapons the Stars have at their disposal. Miro has been really poor, I think, with just his reads and his decision making as well. I think that has certainly crept in. And look, and you can say it's a small sample size, but if you look back to the Edmonton series, I know the stakes are a lot higher, but we're seeing it again, right? Like they can't do anything. Just doesn't seem like they can even get set up and get under control and just make multiple passes in the attacking zone to sort of put something together. Am I worried? No, I'm not worried. They're going to get it figured out. They've been top 10 in power play percentages over the last few seasons, but Steve Spott needs to find some answers, because whatever they're doing is not working, and either teams have sniffed it out or the Stars are just not executing properly. It's got to be something, but it's not working. It's been really bad. It's been really bad. And they've had 6 power plays all year. I completely understand, and we're 2 games into this thing. But this is the point I sort of want to hammer home, because it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way when you have Johnston and Miro and Rope and Robo. I mean, look, there's way too much talent for it to look just really, really bad. It's how I can put it. And I can say in a lot worse terms, but we're keeping it PG here tonight on a post-game Locked On Stars. The scoring chances, though, just to throw those out there, Islanders 25-15 at 5-on-5. If you include the power plays, 28-20, and they had 12 high danger chances. I mean, look, Oettinger was the difference maker in the game, and the posts were, once again, he's living right. He's living right. But again, I mean, 33 saves. He picks up a shutout. He's just he's looked super good. And I thought he was going to have a huge year. I was talking about it all summer. I came on here. I was like, this. I mean, I just felt like this is a year where he really, really, really just really settles in, and he looks like it. And again, we're 2 games in. That's just another one of my overreactions, but he's been brilliant. So all good things. Stars get outshot 34-27, but they win 3-0 in their home opener. Jake Oettinger, the first star, he gets our shooting star on today's episode of Locked On Stars. Matt Dumba will be reevaluated on Monday. Looks like he's day-to-day. He's not going to go tomorrow against Seattle. That is for sure. They're going to have some pictures taken on Monday is the diagnosis, at least for now. So we'll keep an eye on that. But it certainly throws a wrench into some of their plans. But again, Dallas sort of had to deal with this last season, but they did have Chris Tanev towards the end of the year, right? So it is going to make it a bit bumpy. I'll say that. It's going to be bumpy the rest of the way. But hey, Stars are 2-0. Not a bad way to kick off things in 2024-25. That'll do it for a post-game reaction here on Locked On Stars. By the way, today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. They're driven by the search for better. Don't search. Go ahead and match with Indeed. With over 300 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed, ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. I'm thrilled, though. The Dallas Stars are 2-0. They have a chance to move to 3-0 tomorrow. Casey DeSmith in between the pipes for the Dallas Stars. We'll see him in action for the first time. We'll probably see Brendan Smith as well. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to throw out there before we officially close on tonight. If there's anything else that sort of caught my eye. I feel like I mentioned it. I thought the fourth line was strong tonight. Just to give some of the Corsi for percentages, the fourth line, 81%. They played just over 8 minutes. And I mean, they spent the majority of the time in the offensive end, didn't generate a ton of scoring chances, but they didn't give up anything either. And that's what you expect from them, certainly. And that's sort of all I got for today. It's all I got. So I'm going to get out of here instead of rambling now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll be back to break down tomorrow's game against the Kraken on Monday. So you'll hear that episode on Monday as we start a whole new week of Locked On Stars. Thank you for joining us for some bonus content. Like, comment, subscribe, do that good stuff. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you later. So long, Stars fans.